Please ask you to silence your cell phones, refrain from creating any disruptive sounds. At this time, I would like to invite Pastor David McLaughlin from the St. Paul's United Methodist Church to come forward to lead us in the invocation. If you could please all stand.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, and members of the community. It's a blessing to be here today to do this. Would you please be in an attitude of prayer? O most gracious and loving God, giver of life, it is with grateful hearts that we gather this day to give our voice to our concerns, advocate for our projects, and make decisions about the future well-being of those who live in San Bernardino. It is with great joy that we come to serve this city, to celebrate our accomplishments, to hear about the plans being laid, and to make decisions about investments in the future of San Bernardino. We thank you for our local, state, and regional and national government and their stewardship of our resources. May we constantly look to you to seek your guidance as we consider facts and figures this day, as we discern and make decisions. Let us always be willing to listen to you and take the time necessary to reflect on how our decisions affect those whom we govern. We ask that you watch over those who have dedicated themselves to keeping the peace here and abroad. We seek your protection for all of those in leadership, and especially for the staff both here and on the city streets. The city knows of the loss of pain due to those who would try and cause terror in the hearts of their citizens. And so our prayers of solidarity go out to those in New York City who are mourning the loss of loved ones this day. I pray all of this in the name of my Lord and Savior. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. At this time, we'll ask Scout Riley to come forward. To come to the podium, if you would, please. He's from PAC 247 from the San Bernardino Elks Lodge, number 836, and he will lead us in the pledge. Thank you.
Can everybody please rise? All those in uniform, please salute. All others, place your right hand over your heart. Can you please repeat after me the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Pastor McLaughlin, and thank you, PAC 247, for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We appreciate it. This time, I'll ask the City Attorney to report out in closed session.
Yes, Mayor. On all items listed under A and B, that is conference with legal counsel with respect to existing litigation and conference with legal counsel and anticipated litigation, all of the items listed on the agenda were counsel gave settlement directive by a vote of 7-0. On the item listed under item C, which is with respect to real property negotiations, and the item identified in the property identified in the agenda, council gave real property negotiators a directive by vote of 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one appointment this evening. Councilmember John Baldivie has requested the appointment of Mr. Juan Figueroa to the Community Development Citizens Advisory Committee. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Baldivie.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Figueroa contacted our office suggesting that he's unable due to emergency, cannot be here, but if the measure passes, then he would subject himself to be sworn in either at the city manager's office or city clerk or however you want to coordinate it.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, you know, play on words. Yeah, it's the World Series.
Seventh game of the World Series is just awful.
City clerk?
Yes.
Please.
On the appointment of Juan Figueroa, the motion to approve was made by John Valdivia. The second was by Mr. Nickel, and it passed 7-0.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to invite Pastor Kelvin Ward from Cathedral of Praise to join me at the podium. Thank you. This evening, we'd like to issue the certificates of recognition on behalf of all the nonprofits that are listed here on the screen this evening. We'd like to thank all of them and their organizations for the collaboration and support from the Common Ground for Peace program that was put together by ICUC and the many peaceful walks for prayer. We appreciate that. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you. On behalf of ICUC, and I'm going to ask, as I'm speaking, those that are represented this afternoon to come up. On behalf of ICUC and member congregations, we thank our Mayor Davis, our City Council, and Chief of Police for working with us on Common Ground for Peace as a violent intervention program that has begun in San Bernardino. ICUC has worked tirelessly for 27 years to be allies to our schools and city to improve our community together. We appreciate the recognition, Mayor, given to our efforts in collaboration with our city and school districts to uplift San Bernardino families. We look forward to the success and implementation of San Bernardino's violence intervention program under David Miranda and 2 captains. We will continue to support our community as our city leadership and police to serve and to save and turn around lives in our city of San Bernardino. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a certificate here for each one of them. I will read one presented by the City of San Bernardino to the Inland Congregations United for Change, Common Ground for Peace. The Mayor and City Council join to recognize you for your participation in the Common Ground for Peace efforts and prayer walks. As we each come together to improve San Bernardino, our impact only becomes greater. You have played a significant role in our efforts, and we look forward to continued partnership for peace throughout our community. We thank you and wish you the best. Each one of these organizations will receive one of these certificates of recognition. Thank you.
The gentleman in the back with his Ready? Ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm smiling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Once again, we thank ICUC for all their impact that they're having on our community. You truly are making a difference, and we appreciate your hard efforts. At this time, we'd like to invite Jake and Dominic from the Tachikawa Sister City Program to come forward. They have a presentation to make to us.
Good evening. My name is Dominic Gutierrez. And my name is Jake Tivy. It's nice to be here with you all today. We are representing the San Bernardino Tachikawa Sister City Program, at which we were ambassadors this past summer. This organization was established in 1959 to promote international understanding following President Dwight D. Eisenhower's People-to-People initiative following the Second World War. The goal of the program is to offer students in San Bernardino the opportunity to go to Japan and for 1 month to live with a host family. And the reason it is Tachikawa is because they're approximately the same size as San Bernardino, and they were in 1959, and has continued to remain similar in those correspondings. The students and families that are selected, they're based upon their academics, their extracurricular activities, and their interest in learning about Japan. Prior to going to Japan, after they are selected by the committee through the rigorous interview program, and we have gone through a 9-week crash course in Japanese so that we can communicate with people in which we're trying to improve relations with, both of which we have communicated with the mayor of Tachikawa, Tokyo, and received very, very generous gifts from him. And our Japanese language lessons prepared us for that and prepared us to communicate with our host families. One person that is not here with us today because she has an audition is Samantha Vargas. She was the San Vergonia representative, and so it was us two and her that got the opportunity to go to Japan this past summer and lived with the host family. I lived with the Kobayashis, you lived with the Moriyamas. And both of which were very, very hospitable families in Japan. And we learned a lot about Japanese culture and, of course, acted as representatives from San Bernardino to Japan. In 2019, the Tachikawa San Bernardino Sister City Program will be celebrating its 60th anniversary. And to keep this organization operating and offering the students of San Bernardino a chance to learn about other cultures is the initiative that we all try to follow. So we thank you for your time hearing our testimonies today. And I think we have a side note talking about our orientation informational meeting that's open to all juniors in the district. So I'll have Dominic lead in with his experiences in Japan. So, konbanwa, or good evening again. Like I said, my name is Dominic, and Jake and I are seniors at Cajon High School. So just a brief background of our experiences in Japan, or I guess mine per se. Like Jake said, I lived with the Moriyama family, and I had a host father, a host mother, 3 younger host sisters, and 1 younger host brother, Taiyo. And my time in Japan was, I don't have the words. It was indescribable, I guess. They treated me with with the utmost respect and dignity, and I've never met people more kind than who I met in Japan. They welcomed me into their home with welcome arms, treating me as one of their own, my host family. And they did everything in their power to show me what their country is like, what their city's like, and how they live day-to-day life. So they didn't, obviously, of course, we visited amazing places like Mount Fuji, and which is the tallest mountain in Japan, Tokyo Disney Sea. But they also took me to the more local destinations in Tachikawa, like the Showa Kinen Park, which was an old military base that is converted into a garden. And it was really the things like that that showed me what's important to them, which are strong familial relationships. It's common in Japanese practice for the eldest son to live with their parents until they find a wife and build their own house. So it was just interesting to see how much they cared for one another. In addition, the food was excellent. The favorite thing I tried was probably unagi, which is like fried eel on top of rice. Some other interesting dishes were umeboshi. And umeboshi is a pickled plum. And it's very sour. It does not taste anything like you think it would, but it was delicious nonetheless. We ate a lot of seafood in Japan, but also my host parents were really considerate, and they tried to make me feel more at home by cooking American dishes. So I had Japanese versions of, I know this isn't necessarily American food, but pizza, spaghetti, and a lot of Japanese people actually, when I visited some restaurants, one of the most common entrees on the menu was fried chicken. It's called karage. It's actually really delicious. So that's the food. In terms of language, at first it was a little difficult adjusting to the new environment, so I was thankful for the 9-week crash course with Ms. Fumiko Fosdick, who taught us once a week some basic Japanese. And with those vocabulary words and basic sentence structures, we were able to develop into more fluent speakers. So of course, we're not fluent as of current, but I think we were provided with the foundations that we can build upon. And as the weeks progressed, the language barrier became less and less. So my first few days there, we had to use a lot of hand signals between myself and my host families. We had a translator book that we popped open every now and then. But as time went on, we had like a mutual understanding for one another, that when we knew what the other was talking about just by pointing at something, and we could develop a whole conversation with just a few words. My host parents were, like I said, the most accommodating, especially with food. They always wanted to make sure that I was happy where I was, adjusting the air conditioner, giving me medicine when I was sick, and they're just so kind. And so that was my experience in Japan. When I brought my host sister Kaho back into the United States, she lived in my home for a month, and my family took her to some nearby places like Las Vegas and Hollywood. She's really interested in Despicable Me and like the Universal Studios, so we took her there. She had the time of her life. We took her the city walk of of Universal Studios, and she was surprised by all the bright lights and all the people. Her first day back, we took her to Venice Beach, so she had quite the experience. And then she's really interested in basketball. She plays for her team, and one of her dreams was seeing a professional NBA game. But unfortunately, when she came, it wasn't NBA season, so we took her to a women's NBA game, and she enjoyed that nonetheless, and she was begging us to stay afterward to get autographs from the tallest players. So I think she had a good time here. We did our best to make sure that that we conveyed the American culture as best we could, and showed her what was important to our family and to us as Americans. So now I'd like to give it to Jake. Thank you. Hi everyone, again, my name is Jake. I had a similar experience to Dominic. I stayed with the Kobayashi family, and they were both of my parents, both Hiroaki-san, my father, and my mother, Torumi-san. They were both correctional officers at the nicest detention facility in the entirety of Japan, in Tachikawa. And I can say it's nice because every room had a TV and full bed and accommodations that I thought was really nice, but again, it's not prison, so I might have had some reservations there. My family was more than accommodating. They treated me as their own son. I became Jake Kobayashi for my entire time in Japan, and my American representative name became less and less valuable as we exchanged more and more cultural information. I really integrated into Japanese society. I feel like I've had a really good background in traveling because at my school, part of travel club, and we go to Europe and we explore, and the goal there is to try to broaden the horizons of the youth. And I could say that my experience at Tachikawa, it blows that out of the water. It's being in a country for an entire month and living with a family and then bringing a member of that family back to live with yours is definitely a life-changing experience, and it was probably the most impacting moments on myself. And while we were in Japan, we did a lot to kind of communicate relationships, and I learned a lot about how familial relationships and bonds can span thousands of miles. And I still talk to my family. I text Aina all the time. My mother gives me updates on how my dog does in training school. His name is Arumu. He's a little beagle. He's very cute. And I gained a second family in Japan. They became really the people that I depended on the entire month, and I went to amazing locations. We visited the very broad general tourist locations, of Shinjuku and different fireworks festivals and moon festivals in the ancient city of Kyoto. But then we also visited more integrated and much more reserved locations, like traditional botanical gardens over there. We had a traditional tea ceremony that we had to learn the customary practices for, and that basis of Japanese that we learned through the Sister City Exchange program really prepared us for that. We really were able to communicate. We did numerous speeches when we were over there in Japanese, talking about who we are and why we're here. And I really do feel like through this program we've conveyed the entire extent of the American spirit and who San Bernardino is and who we represent and just the people that live here to Tachikawa. And through my experiences with my sister, Ina, bringing her back, we took her up to Yosemite because she's an avid climber, and her father runs an organization in Tachikawa for adult climbers. And so it was a treat to show her like the climbing location in the world. She was really ecstatic to see that. We took her up to San Francisco, showed her just about everything you could see there, and she had a really good experience. And my mother said that while she was with our family, she didn't have a bad day. And that really meant a lot to us, at knowing that we were able to give her that same accommodation that she gave me in Japan. And I think we both really learned a lot from each other. I think you can't talk about going to Japan unless you talk about the food a little bit. Food was a big experience for me because in my household we normally don't eat shrimp. And so having a lot of shrimp as part of fine cuisine, because we did go to fine cuisine, we had lunches with really influential people. That was really intimidating at first, but their spectrum kind of became our spectrum, and our palate kind of adjusted to that, so now we're able to try just about anything. And I feel like my stay in Japan has been both amazing and my integration with Japanese society, and there's an idea, and you'll have to excuse me for this, there's an idea where you can remain independent in kind of a cohesion. And so being immersed in a culture, it's hard to remain true to your values and not completely overturn without sharing who you are culturally. And part of the program, the major part of the program, is to show the deliverance between the cultures and how we're different, celebrate our differences, and also show how we're similar and celebrate our similarities. And I feel like I learned a lot of commonalities in humanity, a lot of values that are common between people of all races, across borders. And I feel like that experience has really helped me. I know we're both going through the college admissions process right now. We actually have applications due tonight for, I think, Stanford and University of Pennsylvania. And our experiences in Japan have more than prepared us to be talking about the real issues. It helped us determine who we are, what we value, and what we want to see in the world, what changes we want to see, and the change that we want to be. So I want to thank everyone in the Tachikawa San Bernardino Sister City Committee for making that possible, for me, Samantha, and Dominic. And I want to thank everyone sitting up here for creating an environment where this kind of situation would be possible and continue to be possible 60 years strong. So thank you, everyone, for listening. And Dominic has some information about an orientation meeting that's going on for any juniors in the area.
Just a quick note, if you have any connections with the San Bernardino City Unified School District, or if you know any juniors that you think might be interested or qualified for this program, our welcome and orientation meeting is next Wednesday, a week from today, November 8th at 6:30 p.m. at the Humane Society of San Bernardino. The address is 374 West Orange Show Road. It'd be a great opportunity for them to get just a little bit more background of what we do and the logistics of it, I guess. They'll hear testimonies from our parents, so the parents will feel less nervous. I know at first my parents weren't too comfortable about sending me, but after hearing the parents from last year speak, they felt much more comfortable with me going to Japan, and I'm thankful that they at least gave the meeting an opportunity, because that spiraled into something fantastic. So thank you again for your time, and have a good night.
Thank you. Jake and Dominic, we appreciate your presentations. Very, very well done. Would like to just also thank Judy and Jeanette, who are the two powerhouses behind this Tachikawa effort. So thank you very much. Next, we'll invite the Chamber to come forward. Roger.
I have to follow that? Wow, those kids are wonderful. Okay, Roger Henderson from the Chamber of Commerce, and want to say good evening to the Mayor and Council, citizens of San Bernardino. My name is Roger Henderson, Ambassador for the Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to give you the upcoming community events for the next 2 weeks. And I don't know why they did this. I guess they didn't plan on the 7th game. But tonight they're starting at 5 o'clock. And for every Wednesday evening for the rest of the month, North Vermont Farmers Market takes place at 6245 Palm Avenue in the north of the city there. On Friday, November the 3rd, Senator Mike Morale's Women of Distinction Awards ceremony and dinner will take place at 11200 Baseline Road in, I hate to say this, Rancho Cucamonga. Don't forget to vote for your San Bernardino School Board Unified School District on November the 7th at your local polling places. On November the 8th, the Chamber will be doing our monthly networking lunch, and this luncheon will be at Mimi's at 395 Hospitality Lane. We start at 11:30. If you don't get there till 11:45, you come and go when you want to, and this gives you and the business person a chance to network and get to know a few people in town. That's what it's all about, networking. And on Thursday the 9th, the Chamber will be hosting legislative breakfast with State Senator Connie Lea, beginning at 7:30 at the Arrowhead Country Club. This is an ideal opportunity to get to know your representatives and get updates of what's coming or happening in Sacramento. Opportunity to talk to your elected representatives about what's on your mind. If you have any questions on that event, please call 885-7515. At 9 o'clock on the same day, San Bernardino Unified School District is hosting a community gathering for excellence at the National Orange Show beginning at 9 a.m. And the San Bernardino City Veterans Salute Parade takes place on Saturday, November the 11th at 11 a.m. at La Plaza Park on Mount Vernon Avenue. And this is an event that honors our military men. We should never forget the sacrifice that these men and women make. And there's a musical shack takes place at California Theater Performing Arts on the 4th. And that's on the 4th Street, Saturday, 8 p.m. and 8 p.m. And then on the November the 14th, Caltran will be hosting an open house for the state railroad plan for the Santa Fe Depot. Location 1170 West 3rd Street at 4:30. A lot of stuff. Thank you very much, man.
Thank you. We appreciate the council keeping us informed and taking the time to bring that to our attention. I'd also like to add that you learned today that Caltrans will be hosting an SB1 partnership forum, Rebuilding California. It'll be held November 30th at 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And this has to do with the partnershiping for the SB1 funding that will be made available. And so we'll pass this on to the city manager. Next, we will go to public comments on the consent calendar. Paul Sanborn wants to speak on item 8 and 14.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. First, I want to start off by going from the beginning on this. I called the chief fire of the county. His secretary put me in touch that wound up with a recording. From there, he handed it to somebody else. He handed it to another person. Finally, a battalion chief from C Shift down on 3rd Street calls me. I explained everything to him. He said he would take care of it. That's as far as it went. Is the city assistant chief fire guy here tonight? He's not here, is he? Okay. What I'm going to do is give you these pictures, what I'm trying to explain to you, and I'm going to explain to all of you right now. In fire protection, so you understand, we do stuff by density. This is what we consider office. it's light density, so it's .10 over 1,500 square feet. So just approximate going from that wall to that post, and probably about, say, maybe from here to the wall. If you had a fire here right now, just in this area here, if the sprinklers don't get it out, okay, and what I'm here about is the FDC out front. If it's missing and the fire department can't hook up onto it, this building is going to the ground. And we've got 27 pictures here. The swivels are missing, the caps are missing, some of the PIVs haven't got handles on them. The people have stolen the FDCs, to which the fire department plugs into. And the reason I'm really pointing this out to you guys, to be honest with you, winter's coming. And my point is, for the fact that winter's coming with the transients and the homeless and everything, if they break into a building that is empty and start a little bit of fire to try to keep warm and catch that building on fire, and that FDC out front is not complete, and the fire department shows up, they're going to fight that from outside. They're not going to go in the building, I'm telling you. Believe me. These pictures here, for what it's worth, you council look at it.
The city, pass them to the city clerk.
All of these pictures here are all in Virginia Marcus' ward. 20 minutes, I took them 27 pictures. And the whole town has got problems, I'm telling you. Yeah, put them in the record. Anyhow, I did put in a call to you. Terry says you can't find it. I don't know. I forgot to tell Terry it was 2 months ago. I've been fighting this thing because I got a back problem. Losing my chain of thought here. Anyhow, I'm just trying to tell you, some morning you could get up and find half of this town burnt to the ground if you don't pay attention to this. My biggest thing is, now I've got my deal back, the $152 that we pay for fire, I guess evidently, somehow or another, you guys have dropped the ball there. And the reason I say that is they are not going around inspecting the buildings. If it's a new building, the county goes out and inspects it. If it's a tenant improvement, they go inspect it. You look at these pictures, you tell me when they've been by there. They go by the buildings once a year.
Thank you. Ms. Sanborn, your time's expired.
And I know, and the city of San Bernardino used to get money, you know, when they go by. The firemen would charge them, send them a bill.
Thank you.
You need to look into that.
Carmel Rowe.
Carmel Rowe, 41-year resident. So the first thing that I would like to speak about today is the First Amendment to the Vendor Service Agreement with Overland Pacific. I'd like to tell you that I have insider information from people who have been relocated from the mall, and those people did not do their job. They did not perform accordingly. They are the reason that you will probably end up with lawsuits. They did not help tenants. I mean, longtime tenants of that mall. So any money that you would want to give them, they cost their self, and they should be responsible for that. So I'd like to bring that to your guys' attention so that you've been told. The next thing that I would like to, I have to speak today on behalf of the dogs at the animal shelter. I'm very upset and I'm very bothered by this $50,000 and by Advanced Pet Care Animal Hospital. There have been numerous reports and numerous concerns of them taking blood from these dogs that are supposed to be housed there and keeping them for 53 days and then returning them and them not being well. Okay, and with 100, when I read the back of it, it was like we have $138,000 from people not picking up their $75, and we want to give these people $50,000 when they're not doing right by our shelter animals. I mean, we have people ready and willing to help these shelter animals. Advanced Pet Care, I'm going to tell you, I have firsthand personal knowledge. I had a friend of mine take their dog there for 2 days. When their dog got from there, their dog had to have a blood transfusion. The dog came back and he was bleeding to death, and nobody called. And what happens to a perfectly normal dog over there in 2 days? Okay, our shelter dogs deserve better. The animal shelter, they funnel a lot of money in and out of that animal shelter to not take care of those dogs. You go over to Riverside, and they got a real beautiful home for dogs, and they don't kill them. They got heated floors, $138,000, and we want to give these guys $50,000 to spay and neuter our dogs? No. Let's contract with the Humane Society. Let's contract with the doctor up there on 40th and Sierra Way. Let's get a new RFP. These guys are hurting and maiming our dogs, and maybe you don't care about the dogs in the animal shelter, okay, because maybe you treat them like all the homeless people and all the people who are uneducated in this city, but I care. I care, and I'm here today for the voice of all those dogs that cannot speak for theirself. Okay, we need to do something. We need to look into these things, and you guys have all been made aware of these things. And now that you know, do not turn the other cheek. There is a lot of people who are watching and are dog lovers, and I'm going to tell you the amount of money they have to put into a campaign to get rid of you guys for not paying attention to the dogs is a lot. They raised $2,200 for my dog in a week. Imagine what they could do in 6 months. That's my time.
Thank you. Robert Porter?
San Manuel and the land swap. I'm speaking on the land swap. Which one is that? Or 14. Okay, Mayor, Council, good people. I'm here to speak on the land swap. It is Native American Month. So kind of good that we're doing some good things with the Native Americans locally. San Manuel is a leader in our community. Giving them back land that was stolen from them originally is the best thing I can ever think of, Mr. Mayor. You righted a wrong. By helping them get this land, you're righting a wrong. And I really do appreciate that so much, sir. This is important for our community. The more land that San Manuel is in charge of, the better we will be. Why? Because they are good stewards of the land, and they will protect it for thousands of years, not just your term. So please, more deals. In fact, we should have an ambassador to San Manuel that does anything that is necessary to get in contact with for most of our projects to see what they're interested in. Maybe they want to add something. Maybe they don't like a part. But we should conduct our business with San Manuel in mind at all times from now on, because they are the main leader in our area, and they will help us. They will help all of these areas, and they're great leaders. So I like this. This is positive for the community. Thank you very much, and please vote yes on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other speaker slips, public comments? Thank you. We'll now move to our consent calendar, items 5 through 12. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Thank you.
No polls, there's a game on.
No polls?
I have just one. I have 11.
You have a poll?
11, yes.
We have one poll. Item number 11. 10 and 11? Any other polls?
I'll second.
All right. Item 10 and 11.
Thank you. On the consent calendar items, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Mr. Charette, and the item passed 7-0.
Thank you. Item number 10 is authorization to amend the adopted fiscal year 17-18 budget and issue purchase orders for spay and neuter services to Western University of Health Sciences and Advanced Pet Care Animal Hospital. Councilmember Nickel?
It's mine.
Oh. Councilmember Valdivia.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to first point to our city manager if you have staff to make any presentation or comments regarding this, or give us a brief overview.
Yeah, what I would do is the council would like a brief overview, then I'll have the captain address that, and certainly we have the staff here that can address specific questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Captain?
Hi, Captain King. Thank you so much. We do have funds that are in a restricted account where if an individual who is out of city is going to adopt an animal, that they paid a $75 deposit fee, and once they show proof of alteration, that money is refunded. However, some folks did not reclaim that money, and per the code, we can only use that money towards alterations. The reason why we alter is to help reduce animal populations, and it also increases our adoption rates and some of the other programs that we have, just because it helps minimize the expense for new owners. We have had a partnership with the vet school for many years now, and APC, which was formerly General Dog and Cat, have always provided our spay-neuter services. So this money being moved from the restricted account to an expense account will allow us to not only do voucher programs, but also help if there's an adoption event to help mitigate some of the costs for our community.
The adoption events, are these events, how does one council member, or is this a city event, or do multiple agencies have the potential to apply for a adoption event?
I'm going to let Oscar speak. He's the manager of the shelter.
In regards to your question, could you repeat your question, what specifically you're looking for?
Captain King suggested that there's an adoption event or adoption event opportunities. Walk us through on the protocol for applying for adoption event, and what resources are available for us as a city to actually have perhaps that on the map so that we can have an annual event on top of your daily activities of adoption.
Okay, so there's multiple events that either we set up on our own at the shelter, or there's other events that are sponsored by, for example, recently we just attended one at Redlands University. So these are events that they put on and invite the city shelter to bring animals that are already spayed and neutered so that we can release them immediately and adopt them out. In regards to the university, they have a mobile unit, and so does Advanced Pet Care, that they can go anywhere in the city, and therefore we can, and also come to the shelter to provide services directly at the shelter to prepare for events that we have in the shelter. Western University also does an event at the shelter every year, sponsored by the university, where they simply brings the students over and they do all the legwork, but it's still being done at the shelter.
So Advanced Pet Care Hospital, is that what was formerly known as just General Dog Cat Hospital on South Arrowhead?
Yes.
So they just changed their name?
No. It went under new ownership, and I think a lot of the public isn't aware of that. And actually, Dr. Bechet is a whole new doctor, is not one that we dealt with before until he took over the practice, and he went ahead and changed the name of the facility to hopefully move away from the past reputation. But unfortunately, a lot of individuals want to hang on to that past. So it's unfortunate.
Well, the assurances to the community then is that you vetted Dr. Bechet, he comes with good credentials, and walk us through that vetting process with Advanced Pet Care.
So one thing I want to cover for sure, every year we go out for quotes, and we cover the entire city as well as contracted cities, Loma Linda and Grand Terrace, seeking out quote bids for veterinary services. Just so everyone's aware, all these years this is my third year, that we have not received viable quotes or any quotes whatsoever from any other facility outside of Dr. Bechet and Arrowhead or Arrowview Animal Hospital. We utilized Arrowview last year, and due to the pressure from the rescue community and networkers, they lasted about 6 weeks before they decided not to deal with the city. So Dr. Bechet has been with us since the beginning, since he took over. He's been very reputable. He's assisted in regards to, since we lost our RVT at the shelter, he would provide his services to kind of lead the shelter staff, since we are under his license as a outside premise. And he provides the services to train my staff in order to make sure we're following the state guidelines in regards to health and well-being of the animals.
Very good. We appreciate what you're doing for our animals. I'll move for approval on this. And final question, was this somehow presented to the Animal Control Commission?
I believe that that's one of the commissions that we will be discussing on Friday. I think that there's a quorum issue with that group. So I think you've presented in the past the process for vetting veterinary services. I don't know that they looked at this particular item.
In regards to the Animal Commission, I discussed our protocol for the voucher program. We hadn't utilized the Pro Voucher program for quite a while, and these funds that continued sitting there. So we didn't have enough sufficient staff to get that situated. Once we did, then we had to find a vet service that would provide us that service, accepting the PO and then the process. And it's been very successful. Just to give you an example, the first event that we sponsored, which was at the end of this fiscal year, in utilizing the adoption program as well as the voucher program, we were able to adopt out 150 animals in 2 days.
Wonderful. That's good to hear.
So it's very successful.
It's great to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mayor, I have a question.
Councilmember Marquez.
Captain King, can you come back? I just need some clarification. I wrote some notes down. You indicated that if someone possibly out of the city, a non-resident, pays $75, is that correct?
Yes.
Because I know when I picked up my Dora, I am a resident, I also pay $75, but you get it back once you come back and you show proof of all vaccinations.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I also approve this item.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. Results of the vote?
On item 10, the motion to approve was made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Mr. Charette, and the item passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next is item 11, acceptance of the San Manuel Community Credit Fund restricted grant in the amount of $4,200,000 through 2020, and amendment of the 2017-18 adopted budget. Councilmember Nickel.
Yeah, well, first I want to commend our police department for putting this together and working with our San Manuel tribe, and I think this is something that, again, I've been really impressed with the police department and how you've gone out and really explored all options in terms of pulling together additional funding to grow our department and really get it up to the staffing levels that I think we're going to need moving forward. So I really appreciate that. I did have a couple questions related to this item. I'm going to go ahead and move it for approval, but I would like to have some clarification on this. This is for a total of $4.2 million through 2020, and so we'll be adding $600,000 for the balance of this calendar year. I want to make sure that this is in addition to that. There's been some concerns with some of what's happened in the past with Measure Z and other accounting that we've used in the city, that this funding will in fact be in addition to the existing police budget. And if I can just get some clarification.
Yes, it will.
That is the case. Okay, so we aren't going to shift money off and then replace it with this money.
No, we are not.
Okay. And then also there's an item in the agreement, on packet page 139, section C, very bottom of the page, records, audits, site visits. I assume all that information is more or less public information as well, so the public will have access to that. So
yes.
I think there is a desire to ensure transparency in this so that people do understand that we are in fact using this money to buy additional vehicles and hire more officers and add to, as opposed to just shift around resources.
Remember, at one point, some time ago, the tribe did have an arrangement with the city, and unfortunately we weren't able, because we had lost so many officers and we were going through the bankruptcy, we weren't able to actually meet the agreement and the requirements in the agreement. So we've structured this in a way that we feel confident that we can honor the obligations that we're committing to. It would be additional services. And Jerry Parisa is here. This might be a great opportunity for him just to give, because a quick overview, this is part of a much broader program that they have in this community, and we've been working on this and a whole host of other things. And so, not to put you on the spot, Jerry, but since we do have you in the audience, you might want to talk about the credit fund, and Adam's here as well, but that might be a nice time to talk about some of the other things, because this is part of a much broader package that we're working on.
Good evening, everyone. Good to be with you. I like your digs here, even though they're temporary. Very nice. Yes, the city manager is referring to the compact with the state, the tribal state compact that was renegotiated under the Brown administration in 2016, and it involves what is deemed in the compact as the San Manuel Local Community Credit Fund. The credit fund, it's, I don't want to convey that I'm Santa Claus with a big pack on my back. The reality is that there are many uses allowable under the compact for these funds, and the need is always greater than the funds, as you know. Nonetheless, the tribe is very happy to partner with the PD and in a relationship of funding that has gone back to 2006 for the benefit of the local community, broadly San Bernardino, but also the local community around the reservation. And we feel very strongly that the neighborhood, as Andrea said, should be able to see a presence from the PD, and that I've already seen a difference in the last couple of weeks. So I'm very grateful to the police chief. Thank you.
And just a quick follow-up, beyond 2020, what do we anticipate? Obviously, this will give us an opportunity, not to ask Santa Claus for some more. That's a logical question.
The reason that we sort of sunsetted it temporarily to 2020, as you indicate, is because there is a process of ramping up by the police department with its staffing, and it would be a good time to reevaluate the program at that time.
That's fair. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilman Valdivia.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Parisa, I certainly welcome the, the benefits to our community. We're glad partners, and we certainly appreciate the great work that San Manuel has contributed vastly to this region and certainly to nationwide endeavors. I just learned of a nationwide endeavor that you were a part of, and so glad to learn of it earlier this morning. Regarding the scope here, my question is on packet page 135. Unfortunately, I didn't see an Exhibit A or a map that somehow gave us and provided scope of services, albeit that's not a big, I'm supporting this tonight. In fact, I second it. But the idea is that the grant defined area would be, as outlined in section C1 and 2, is it essentially just around the surrounding San Manuel
Yes.
property?
Yeah.
All right. And the western half of and I'm reading just a verbatim, the western half of the C4 beat and the eastern extremity of the C1 San Bernardino Police Department beat. Central portion of the defined area is bounded by Arden Avenue on the west, Highland Avenue to the south, Orange Avenue to the east, and city limits to the north. We're grateful for the partnership. This is an awesome opportunity to see really the beauty of this compact agreement. As I studied it and tracked it last year, I was aware of the situation and very supportive of, rather than that money going to the state and staying in $183 billion worth of general fund pot money, which is really essentially, as someone had described it, a black hole. Now the benefits are that local communities can pick up and see the beneficial effects of that proposed money. So we certainly thank the leadership at San Manuel, and we're glad to welcome these efforts for policing strategies here locally. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Oh, please.
On item 11, the motion to approve is made by Mr. Nichol, the second by Mr. Valdivia, and it passed 7-0.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to item 13, which is to hold a public hearing, and the public hearing is being requested to be continued.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, we would like and request that you continue the public hearing. Do I have a motion? If I continue it to December 6th. I would like to push it out one more time, as the council will be discussing some of the things that could impact this.
So this is for December 6th?
For December 6th, and then it was noticed, you may want to see if there's anyone that would like to speak for it, and then we'll keep a record of their comments, but we would request that we continue the hearing to December 6th.
Do you have any speaker slips? Is there anyone in the public that wants to speak on this item? Thank you. Seeing any other questions? We have a motion to continue to December 6th.
I'm waiting for 2 votes. Mr. Nichol? Mr. Nichol?
Mr. Nichol.
On item 13, the motion to continue the public hearing to December 6th was made by Mr. Charette and seconded by Mr. Mulvihill, and the item passes 7-0.
Thank you. Next is item 14. This is an exchange of land between the City of San Bernardino and the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians. Mr. Persico?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and council members. The item before you is a land exchange agreement between the city and the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, in this case operating as Pine Mountain Development. Quickly, some background. Both the city and the tribe wish to exchange property. The city owns 115 acres at the northerly terminus of Sterling Avenue, and the tribe owns the former J.C. Penney's building, which is approximately 2.5 acres, and the building is approximately 227,000 square feet of floor area. The city is hoping to redevelop the mall site. The council is aware of that project that we've been working on, and the tribe is hoping to expand their property. They're running out of room on their current site and are looking for more residential property as well as community services. There were appraisals done on both property. The Foothill property that the city owns has an appraised value of $997,000, and the tribal property has an appraised value of $1,765,000. To orient the council and the public, this is an aerial view of the J.C. Penney's property, which is in the middle of the Carousel Mall site. And the Foothill Sterling property, again, 115 acres at the northerly terminus of Sterling. This aerial actually shows there's 2 properties. There's a property owned by the Water District as well as a property owned by the city. And here's a plat map. This land exchange would just be for the 115 acres, which is city property. The water department property does have a tank on it currently, and the water department might be expanding based upon what happens. They have in their long-range water management plan a second tank located on this property. The analysis, the tribe does intend to federalize this property. They will be coming back at a subsequent meeting seeking city support. As was mentioned earlier, there is a tribal compact. That tribal compact limits gaming to properties which are within the tribal compact as of August, not 2106, that was a typo. 2016, August of last year, which is when the tribal compact was approved and signed by the governor. So any properties which are federalized after that date would not be allowed to have casino gaming operations. The property, when it does develop, is still subject to the Clean Water Act, and that does include stormwater runoff. And the tribe does operate, they use the California Building Code, the same building codes that are used within the city of San Bernardino. And then I think one of the biggest benefits to the residents currently along that Foothill area is there would be an added buffer. Right now, there are neighborhoods or properties, I should say, that back directly onto national park property. If this property is developed by the tribe as they intend to, that would add an additional buffer. And I think for everybody who's seen the destruction that happened in Santa Rosa in early October, this additional buffer would bring them further away from that urban wildland interface. That concludes my presentation, and staff is recommending that the council adopt the resolution approving the land exchange agreement, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
And Mr. Mayor, I would just note that the council office did receive, you have copies in front of you, an email. I don't unfortunately know who it's from. We only have an email address. I'm attaching a Sun article from some time ago recommending approval of the item tonight. And again, we do have Mr. Presa with us if you have any questions from the tribe.
Councilman Nickel.
Just a couple questions I got. Packet page 154, it states, what's that?
It's stipulated recommendation, yes.
It says it says here, the city owns 15 acres of vacant property. Okay, the Foothill property was deeded to the city by the U.S. Forest Service for water purposes. It was deeded to the city or to the water department? Where there was some confusion on this in terms of who owned the land? And
just to remind, legally, the city and the water department are one entity.
Okay.
So it probably was deeded to the city, but it was restricted for water purposes.
Okay, but then there was a swap that occurred between the water department for this property and the city RDA for property at 350. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can explain how all of that works, because I thought they were separate entities that had to do a swap of property that's discussed on the next page. But this is still city property, or this is...
Remember, for asset purposes, you know, we do categorize our properties separately because they have restrictions on them.
Right.
So, I mean, there is a need to do the swap here, but in terms of whether we're a separate legal entity, we are really one legal entity. So I could see where when the federal government transferred something to us, they probably didn't make that distinction other than to restrict the use.
Okay, okay.
I would just follow up. The city manager is exactly right. It was accepted by the city,
right,
and then the city council designated it for water department use. Last year, the city council de-designated that portion for water department use. So now it's simply owned by the city with no self-imposed restrictions.
Okay.
We do that mostly for Prop 218 tracking purposes.
And that was what I was getting to, because some of the questions were raised were on Prop 218 issues. That what was the value of the 1350? Was this more or less a...
We did appraisals of both properties at the time, and
okay,
they were roughly equivalent.
Okay, just want to make sure that was done. Okay, and then this is actually because the 350 Southeast Street property was an RDA property, correct?
It was an RDA property. It was transferred to the city for government use.
Okay, so this...
And then the city designated it for water department use.
Okay.
It's still owned by the city, though.
Okay, but so it's not an RDA property. So because of the swap, this is not an RDA asset.
Because remember, RDA transferred all of its assets.
Okay, okay, okay. So this is, in fact, a city-owned property. Okay.
Move for approval.
And then one last question is, just to be clear, there is an intent to put this property into trust, correct?
Yes.
So it will move from being a property under city building codes, community development, to the tribe, and will be under federal jurisdiction.
Correct. It is a fairly...
Go ahead.
There is a process that needs to be gone through in order to federalize property. That can take several years, and there are multiple steps. But yes, if it is ultimately federalized, then the tribe does have jurisdiction over how the property is developed. But for the runoff requirements, and again, they do follow the same building code that the city uses. But from a zoning standpoint, that is probably the biggest use restriction, there would be no use restrictions on the property at that point. That is correct.
And then just to get back to the J.C. Penney site, because that is now being swapped for a city asset, separate and apart from the other parcels of the Carousel Mall, which are RDA assets.
Remember, they were transferred, their agency, their city assets.
They're all city assets.
Remember, with the dissolution of redevelopment, those properties were transferred to the city, and then each one of them has a disposition strategy.
Okay, but they're still subject to the taxing entities.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Upon
J.C.
sale.
Penney, that site, because this is a city property, as you stated, not an RDA property, that parcel specifically is a city as opposed to a former redevelopment agency parcel, right?
Any of the former agency sites have to be dealt with through the taxing entity.
So the J.C. Penney site is subject to that as well, which means this site is also subject to that as well. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Charette?
Well, I don't know if I was going to say anything, but I will. I would just like to reiterate the importance. I know there's concerns about building codes and what have you, but we follow state codes. They're going to be following state codes. The stormwater runoff is a major concern due to some problems that we've experienced in the past, not just in that area, but all areas of the city. And that they're required, the tribe will be required to follow those standards as well. So
that is correct, because it is federal law
right.
that gets implemented by ultimately the city. So yes, they would be subject
and
to that.
the buffer, the fire buffer, thank you very much for providing that, because that's what it will end up being for residents in that general area. As well as I'm convinced that based on the way the tribe has conducted themselves and the projects that they've built, it will be attractive, well-landscaped, well-maintained, and well-kept. So I think, I know there's going to be people that are not maybe happy about this, but I think generally speaking, it works for both sides. So I will be supporting.
Mayor, I have a question.
Councilor Valdivia.
After him.
Thank you, Mayor. I, too, will be supporting this tonight. I think this is the logjam in government that most of our residents don't quite comprehend, that to redevelop the Carousel Mall property, it is quite essential for the synergistic effects of this property to continue on, that we need this component. This certainly solves the problem here for us locally, and we're appreciative for the partnership opportunities of San Manuel. As I understand it, Mark, on the last or second to the last slide, just a question, when and if that opportunity comes, and if this were to pass tonight, the tribal or the federalizing of this property, what's the time period? Is it quite extensive? Will they undergo environmental impact reviews, or walk us through that opportunity, and I would imagine it's quite an undertaking, and that ultimately that would come back to the council at some point as well for support.
I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on it, except to say that, yes, it is a fairly lengthy process, and yes, they would be coming back to the city for support. I don't know if Jerry's got additional information on that. I've not gone through the process previously. Based upon some of the research that I've done, I know it can take up to 7 years to go through that process. So there are multiple steps that are gone through.
And at each point, I would think at each milepost, there would be plenty of public opinion and opportunity for public comment along the way. So
I believe that's the case, yes.
All right. So I think this is a step in the right direction for our downtown corridor. We're glad, again, for a partnership with San Manuel. And, of course, I move for approval and support this tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Marquez.
Thank you, Mayor. Mark, thank you for your presentation. Brief, but very informative. And Jerry, thank you for being Santa Claus. Mark, I do have a question. I'm hoping this item will pass unanimously, because I think that's what is going to be needed to revitalize the downtown area. After that, would you say Harris's building is the only holdout at this point?
Yes, in terms of developing the Carousel Mall project, their next issue to deal with is the reciprocal easement agreement, and yes, the Harris Department Store Company is the last party to that agreement.
Which is, I think, a work in progress.
Yes, it is. We've been working on it for a while. We think we're close, but yes, it has taken much longer than I think anybody anticipated.
So we're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely, we are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I believe, Mark, this closes the loop on the three-party swap that we had originally started.
That is correct.
The Water Department and the
this is
city
the final
being able
piece
to
of
position
that.
this property so that we can make this swap.
Correct.
Very good. Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, please cast your votes.
On item 14, the motion to approve is made by Mr. Valdivia, the second by Ms. Marquez, and it passes 7-0.
Thank you very much. Next, move to item number 15. This is to develop a co-sponsorship and partnership policy. Mr. Tickmeyer?
Mr. Mayor, while Jim's beginning, as the council's aware, we've identified a whole host of areas where we recognize that we don't have good policies in place or systems that help guide our decisions. And in some cases, because there are not good systems in place, there are policy decisions that really in direction that needs to be provided by the council, but we're often dealing with things so quickly because they come last minute that we want to develop policies that help guide these discussions. So Jim's going to walk through one of the areas that we see as an opportunity to present something to the council, and again, give you an opportunity to provide some input to us on future partnership agreements.
Mayor and Council, thank you for giving me the opportunity tonight to address this issue with you guys. One of the challenges that we have faced in the past and will be facing in the future is the lack of a written comprehensive policy to identify and evaluate our co-sponsorship applicants for our special events and community events. Right now, we really don't have an established criteria that they have to meet, and I feel, and I know the city manager feels, that moving forward, and as our image as a city continues to elevate, we need the ability to align ourselves with co-sponsors that have the same goals and objectives in mind and are in alignment with the direction that we're going. At this point in time, we really have no control over that. We have several organizations and entities that come to us and ask us for our support, and they expect us to base our decision on what's happened in the past, and what's happened in the past, there's really hasn't been a lot of control. So what we're asking to do is develop a policy that would create a qualifying criteria for co-sponsorship, and then also an assessment criteria that would identify the level of sponsorship that this co-sponsor is asking us to provide. So we have, my deputy director and I have been exploring and looking at policies that have been in place around our area by successful cities, and what we're asking you guys to do is give us the direction as staff to move forward with the development of that policy, create that, and bring it back to you guys for approval and adoption so that we can move forward and have some control and limit what sometimes is conceived by others as an impropriety, as maybe they're not getting as much as the last guy got. So this would really make it cut and dried, what you get, what you contribute, and what you get in return. So that's what we'll be asking of you guys tonight. Thank you.
I think because there hasn't been a consistent policy, we've applied, or decisions have been made inconsistently, and so I think in some cases, we haven't been as fair as we otherwise might be, because again, we haven't been consistent in what we're allowing and not allowing.
Thank you. We appreciate the city manager's office and Parks and Recs for identifying this need and being proactive at bringing forward this direction that you're asking for. Councilmember Charette?
Yeah, I certainly support this. I don't know if it needs any kind of a motion or just direction, but okay,
direction,
so
just for the
and I
timeline.
think we probably all would agree that this is a good thing to do. What I would ask is, as the process goes forward, as the policy is developed, that it can be done, maybe we can be sent drafts as it goes, because as we read through it, it might spark some idea or some thought. So as you're all, as the staff is putting it together, share it with us so that when it comes before us in the end, we're all kind of on track and can just move it forward.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
all right, thank you.
Councilman Valdivia?
Ms. City Manager, is it the objective of the policy to somehow be vetted through the Parks Commission, or what entity will be visiting this and discussing it and taking action on it?
We would like to present it to the Parks Commission, but give them some options on, things that they may want to consider, but have them come up and make some recommendations. So when we come forward with you, you've got some sample policy documents that other cities have implemented successfully. You've got a recommendation from the Parks Commission, and maybe some additional things that you would want to consider that we include in the policy before you finally adopt it for implementation.
And to what extent and how far do the tentacles go on this policy? Are we suggesting it's just Parks and Rec, parkland space, community center space, aquatic, and anything having to do within the realm and scope of this department?
I think it really has applicability to everything that we do as an organization. So once you've decided that we're going to host any type of an event or activity, and it becomes a city-sponsored event, I would envision that the sponsorship guidelines that you provide to us would be then applied to that.
Are you overseeing or is Terry, are you assigning Terry as part of this process? Or?
We will certainly be engaged, the goal should always be that the city manager's office is dealing with all the departments, and so as Jim and his staff work to craft something, present it to the commission, we will provide input to that, because yes, we do see, certainly a lot of the events are handled by that department, but it has applicability to everyone, so yes, we will be intimately involved in the discussions about it.
As I understand it, just reading just the headline of sponsorship, Mr. Tickmeyer, would it be, should I assume that this would apply to, for instance, it's a real case where, in fact, there was a consent calendar item where there was a preschool type of for Delman Heights. Am I correct? And so, are you suggesting that nonprofit agencies and extracurricular social clubs or whatnot that want to sponsor or make inroads at the use of a facility in the Parks and Rec Department, that it would somehow have to meet this criteria?
No, there's really a difference between someone that legitimately, because we have rental policies for use of facilities, that someone that rents our facility, or is, we have some where we lease our facilities and they're operating their own program. That's different. We have, in fact, we're looking at those policies as well, because we want to make sure that those are policies that you agree with. This is really where we're sponsoring an event or an activity, and then someone comes along and says, do you know what, I want to provide the music for that, and I'm willing to contribute X number of dollars for the music, but I want my logo to be on that flyer. I just want to make sure that when we accept those types of contributions and sponsorships, that it's really that you feel that the value we've received for that is such that the logo should be on your flyer. So we're really talking about those things that are truly only city-sponsored events where we are funding this event.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further discussion. This just needs a consensus, I believe, to give direction. Right. Seeing no opposition. All right, that concludes our calendar. We'll next move to public comments. Mr. Negretti.
Thank you. Good evening. I like hearing that you are problem solvers, and the reason for that is because in Ward 7, we have a problem, and it's a recent problem. As of the recent months, SVX has installed speakers in the parking lot. This is a noise nuisance. They can be heard 2 blocks over and has members of the Marshall area. We're fed up with it. We're sick and tired of it. Now, what can be done? Because I've spoken to other neighbors who I thought I was the only one who was annoyed by this noise. I'm not alone at all. I apologize to the community. I did hand them out the address for here, and I know how to get here, but I had to Google their address, and the information I provided to them was what I found online, which is the 290 D Street. And they wanted to come, they wanted to attend. I don't know if they got lost, because of course I have no signal here, but I need something done. We need something done. And it's not something that was there, it's something recent. You can hear it. Our dogs are becoming, I think, just immune to the sound, which, everybody that has a dog, you have them there for a purpose, for safety. Can something be done about this? A neighbor did mention that when she had called the department, she was told that they would have to receive 15 complaints. So clearly they're aware that there's a problem. Who do we address this to?
This actually should be brought forward to the Omnitrans board meeting, and their meetings are, I believe, the first Wednesday of the month. And the Omnitrans board meeting is at 5th and Medical Center Drive. And the next meeting will be December 6th at 8 a.m.
And Mr. Mayor, we will make sure that Omnitrans is aware of the complaints too.
But it is very helpful for them to get direct testimony from those that are impacted.
But Mayor Davis, at December 6th at 6 a.m., most of us work.
It's at 8 a.m.
Either way, we're going to be at work. I mean, most of us.
And so what you can do then is if you will send that complaint to the city manager, and then we can get that complaint to Omnitrans.
Where's the representation as far as city council? We have a city council member that represents our ward here. What could you do on behalf of those of us who live in your ward? Because is there not a penal code that has a noise nuisance? And to my understanding, there's no, from this time to this time, if it's a noise nuisance, it's a noise nuisance.
Ma'am, yeah, I agree with you. We will get your name and address and telephone number after either Terry or I will, and we will file the complaint with Omnitrans and help through that process to get it resolved for you. We agree.
And the more specifics that you make available, the time of the day that it's creating that nuisance.
From 5 to 10 p.m. 5 a.m. to 10 p.m.
And the other residents also, that information will just help to build the case. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will make sure we get it to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman.
I might recommend that we, not just in a particular area of the city, but that we revisit the policy SBX-wide throughout our city limits that might be beneficial to business owners and operators along Hospitality Lane and other hotel eateries. If there is some type of ADA requirement, but perhaps they can lower the decibels so that it's within the range of the platform and not going into the neighborhoods. But I would strongly urge that you would consider this citywide. Thank you.
Thank you. Carmel Rowe.
Thank you.
First thing I'd like to say is I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Tickmeyer for getting on one of the street lights that I complained about. It only took from December 26th of last year until a week or so ago to replace a light bulb and put a plastic thing on top of the light. So thank you. The next thing I'd like to say is I'd like to say that when you guys got up and Councilman Valdivia started asking questions about the dogs, he didn't even really realize the right questions to ask. And then when they got up and gave their presentation, they said that money could only be used for spay and neutering. Well, right here in the consent calendar in your backup information, it says according to Food and Agriculture Code 30521C, all spaying and neutering deposits forfeited or unclaimed under this section shall be retained by public animal control agency or shelter, Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Shelter, Humane Society Shelter or Rescue Group, and shall be used by the public animal control agency or shelter, Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. In the shelter, Humane Society Shelter or Rescue Group, only for the following purposes: a program to spay and neuter dogs and cats. 1. 2.
a public education program to reduce and prevent overpopulation of dogs and cats and the related costs to local government. 3, a follow-up program to ensure that dogs and cats transferred are spayed or neutered in accordance with the agreement executed under subdivision D of the section 30520. And last but not least, any additional costs incurred by the Public Animal Control Agency or shelter in the administration of the requirements of this chapter. So what they got up and told you was you can use these funds for one thing. And if you had bothered to anybody read this backup information here, you might know what questions to ask, because you're not asking the right questions and nobody's ever paying attention. It's like whoever's driving here is asleep at the wheel. Then the last thing I'd like to say is Mr. Sines has an old building at the corner of D and 10th Street. And it's a very big mess. They're selling dope out of there. The windows have been broken. The homeless are in and out of there. They've knocked a street light, a whole pole, crashed it down across the street. And today on my way over here, I'm watching them walk across the street slinging dope. And I've been watching this now for probably a month and a half, maybe 2 months. And nobody's done anything. Now, if that was me or my property, I might have a $30,000, $40,000, $100,000 code fine. So I'm wondering how come nobody's paying attention to that property. Or maybe, did you sell it to your friend and you don't want to code enforce your friend? So, I bring this up publicly because I don't really like to ask for any personal favors. So I'd like everybody to know the things I ask for. And what I ask for is people to do their job, clean up this city, and take care of the vacant buildings, board them up, treat everybody the same way, and don't just release rogue code officers because people are outspoken. Do your job. There is drugs, there is prostitution, there is homelessness, there is broken glass, there is windows, there is trash, and it is not okay. That building was nicely maintained by Mr. Sines for 40-something years, and every time I go by and I see it, I'm sick to see it. So that's what I have to say. I stayed here today to say that, and I would appreciate someone to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Porter?
Mayor, council, good people, I'd like to mention Legends of the Arrowhead will be starting their thing at the California Theater, and it starts Saturday, November 25th, 2017, and it's from 6 to 10:30 p.m., and you can donate and get tickets at Eventbrite. At eventbrite.com, search for Legends of the Arrowhead. And then I have my own Legends of the Arrowhead presentation tomorrow at the Historical Society. I did it all on my own, working hard, put my book together, have my final book. I can actually sell it and make a little money in this town. My little side business. I do want you all to come. I know you have a hard time making all these events, and you're real busy, but it's a Historical Society event. It should be fun. So if you're interested in hearing what I have to say and how I'm going to change San Bernardino into the next Machu Picchu, and how I'm going to help bring tourism to San Bernardino, they're going to fly into Norton Air Force Base. We're going to take them on a tour of the art. We're going to take them to San Manuel. They can stay the night, and then they can drive them home. Then they come and bring their money here. That's what we need, tourism. How are we going to save our city? We don't have no money. We're going to bring in tourism. That's how we're going to save the city. We're not going to make a bus to nowhere that keeps everybody up all night, all right? We're going to do something positive that people can go around our whole city and look at it. Now, I also have an app coming out, the Arrowhead Viewing app, where we can see the arrowhead from different spots in the city. And maybe we'll ding your phone when you get to that spot, because we have a lot of buildings and trees in front of the arrowhead. And it's nice to be able to know where you can see it and where you can't. So we'll work on that too. And we're going to build up some positive things. And I hope you guys take heed of that stuff, man. You planned it, dude. If it's too loud over there, you didn't plan it right. If it's speeding through the city and going to Redlands, you didn't plan it right. So fix it. You're in charge over there, man. We're holding your feet to the fire, dude. I'm interviewing everybody. We're going to have the whole 7th Ward, and I've lived there my whole life, and I know most of them. My whole life. We're going to talk to them, and we're going to make sure that you're doing your job, and you're doing a good job, and you're not ignoring people. Because there's certain things you can do for the city and make it better. There's things you could have done to make it better, but instead, you always try to put up a roadblock or do something for yourself. So start thinking about the constituents, all of them, not just the 700 people that voted. All of them, all 200,000. Consider them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other speaker slips? Thank you. Councilman announcements? Councilmember Marquez?
Yes, I have a few. Please come out and join us as our city celebrates the 17th Annual Veterans Day Salute and Parade on Saturday, November 11th. The parade starts promptly at 11 a.m., running from 14th Street in Mount Vernon and ending at La Placita Park. The ceremony will follow at the park located on Mount Vernon Avenue. Please come out and support our men and women from all branches who have served or are currently serving our country. For additional information, you can call Parks and Rec 909-384-3332. The San Bernardino Business and Community Organization meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, November 14th at 10 a.m. This meeting is taking place at the Arrowhead Event Center located at 180 South Arrowhead Avenue. Please come out and join us for a morning of conversation with Lieutenant Rich Lawhead and myself. This meeting started about 2 years ago with 3 business owners, and it has now grown to 30 business owners and residents who want to make a difference. If you have any questions, you are certainly welcome to call me here at the office, 909-384-5188. And finally, I would like to congratulate Amazon on celebrating their 5th year in the city of San Bernardino. And as most of you know, Amazon is located in the eastern portion of the First Ward and is considered to be the home to the online retailer's first fulfillment center, and I'm really excited about that. Cajon High School hosted an amazing event last Monday, October 23rd, where Amazon presented a total of $100,000 to our community. $50,000 was awarded to Cajon High School so it can launch a logistics pathway program, a first of its kind for our city and Amazon. A huge thank you to Amazon for their generosity. They also donated $10,000 to the city's library foundation and $7,500 to the city's Park and Rec Department. And this is great news for all of us, as the city considered closing some parks and libraries as recently as 3 years ago because we just could not sustain them. So we are certainly grateful to have Amazon here in the city. They are a great partner, and we are turning the corner. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Barrios?
Thank you, Mayor. Tomorrow, November 2nd, is Dia de los Muertos, and there's going to be a celebration at the Garcia Center for the Arts at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., and it's located on East Street on the corner of 11th and E. Also tomorrow, if you're not at the Dia de los Muertos celebration, Pacific High School and San Bernardino High School will be battling out for the Bell Game, the annual crosstown rivalry, at Valley College starting at 7 p.m. tomorrow night. Wednesday, November 8th at 6:30 p.m., the Muscubiabi Neighborhood Association meeting will be held at Davidson Elementary School, located at 2844 Davidson Avenue. For more information, contact Lynn Ware at 951-237-3016. And on November 22nd, which is a Wednesday at 9 a.m., the Southwest District Coffee with a Cop is going to happen at Jack in the Box, located at 411 Highland Avenue. For more information on that event, contact Eileen Hards at 909-384-5694. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Valdivia?
Yes, Mayor. I wanted to refer an item to council committees. So I just wanted to, there wasn't an opportunity. So, Ms. City Manager, we're like to convene an LRC meeting regarding possible Southern California Edison regulatory rates and increased rates. I want to also inform the public that we will have a strategic planning workshop on Friday, November 3rd. So that's this Friday, November 3rd, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. All public is welcome. This is a public meeting. It's been agendized. It'll be located at the San Bernardino Police Department Training Room, 710 North D Street, second floor, here in our city. We welcome all visitors and guests to comment and audit our session regarding several of the issues before us. Also want to send a belated happy birthday to my wife. I was traveling and appreciate all what you do, sweetheart, and I love you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Schrepp?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a couple. There is going to be a free medical and dental clinic. It's not associated with the city of San Bernardino. It's a part of the San Bernardino Community SDA Church located at 1696 North G Street. It's a group from the Adventist Medical Evangelism Network. It happened to be one of my doctors that mentioned it to me, and I said I'd be happy they were doing it here in town. They need volunteers. It's for medical and health assessments, no emergency services, dental and vision. You can register, for volunteers, you can register at amensda.org. Again, the church at 1696 North G Street, phone number is 883-2400. Again, just for anybody that wants to go out and help as far as volunteers, but then also for our citizens that are in that area or anywhere that want to go by there. It is a free clinic being put on. The dates, of course, are Friday, November 10th, and Sunday, November 12th. Friday, November 10th, and Sunday, November 12th. Then, as well, on November 8th, 9 a.m. is the San Bernardino PD Northeast District Coffee with a Cop at Denny's Restaurant, 702 East Highland Avenue. Contact Eileen Hards at 909-384-5694. Thursday, November 9th, the Wildwood Park Neighborhood Association meeting at the Lutheran Church of Our Savior, 5050 North Sierra Way. That's way up at the end of Sierra Way, corner of 49th and Leroy. The contact there is Tony Marzullo at 909-883-1315. Again, that's November 9th at 7 p.m. in the evening. And I believe my last one is November 16th. The Dr. Nag Group, better known as, they're better known as Dr. Nag, but they're the Del Rosa Neighborhood Action Group. And they meet at the Native Sons of the Golden West, 2701 Del Rosa Avenue. That's the corner of Del Rosa Avenue and Date Place. The contact there is Claudia Oakes, 909-882-3033. That's Thursday evening, November 16th at 7 p.m. And that's it tonight. And go Dodgers.
Thank you. I'd like to just take a moment and report that this morning at the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority, we received a report from Grid Alternatives, which is a nonprofit based in California that has two primary missions. The first mission is to help low-income households receive the benefits of going solar, and the second mission is to provide workforce development and training opportunities through hands-on experience and training in the field of solar installation. I'll forward that information to the city manager. Also, I'd also like to report that today at the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority, there was an approval of the I-215 landscape segments 1 and 3. Councilmember Nickel.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple announcements. This Saturday, the North Park Fall Festival of Gratitude will take place at North Park Elementary School, address 5378 North H Street. Again, this will take place this Saturday at North Park Elementary School from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then finally, on Tuesday, November 14, the Vermont Neighborhood Association meeting will take place at the Western Regional Little League. This will take place 6:30 p.m., again, Tuesday, November 14, and I believe our city manager will be presenting, so looking forward to a good discussion with our residents in the North End, and appreciate your attendance. So looking forward to seeing everyone there. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Richard.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just have a few announcements. Tomorrow, November the 2nd, from 10:30 to 12, the San Bernardino Pastor United will be hosting a meeting to discuss their 2017 progress and their 2018 goals. This meeting will be held at Ecclesia Christian Fellowship, 1314 Date Street. Contact Reverend R.D. Young at 909-238-6891. And then on Monday, November the 13th, the Northwest Pact will be hosting their meeting at the New Hope Family Life Center at 1505 West Highland, and that begins at 6:30 p.m. And then again on Thursday, November the 16th, the Terrace West and the Mount Vernon Neighborhood Association will be meeting together at the Ballard Rehabilitation Center. That's at 16th and Medical Center Drive. Contact Carlos Turan at 909-383-9017 or Charlie Jacobs, and I do not have her number. But thank you, Mayor, that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Mulvihill?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Charette announced the Coffee with a Cop at Denny's Restaurant on Wednesday, November 8th, and so I won't repeat that. That evening, 6:30, Community Builders Neighborhood Association will hold its regular monthly meeting on the second Wednesday of the month. They meet as the regular point at the First Congregational Church, 3041 North Arrowhead, North Sierra Way. Contact Myra Elder at 909-886-1566. My understanding is that there will be a representative of the police department, and the hoped-for topic will be a discussion of the violence intervention plan or policy program that's being instituted and in the police department. A very great deal of concern, obviously, across the community. But I think of great importance, if you're available on Friday from 9 until 4, the City Council will be holding a strategic planning workshop at the police department at 710 North D Street, second floor training room. It's a public meeting. What a strategic plan is, it's laying the foundations for future policy making, developing the goals, the objectives for the policies that we'll be instituting. And so if you want to get a read, get a tenor on the feelings of the council and the directions that the council feel are important, that will be a good meeting to attend, and there'll be more meetings associated with it, I'm sure. Former county CEO Greg Devereaux will be the facilitator. Difficult to assign what kind of a job that's going to be. But obviously a person who is extremely knowledgeable, highly skilled, a great deal of experience, not just with the county, but with the cities of Fontana and Ontario over the past 2 decades. And again, that will be held this coming Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. At the Police Department, second floor training room. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney? City Clerk? City Manager?
I just wanted to respond to one of the items that was brought before the council this evening. It is accurate that the caps do need to be on the sprinkler connections for firefighting purposes. Unfortunately, in this community, we do have a lot of people that steal the caps. They are valuable for scrap. I think long-term, we probably want to work with the scrap dealers to try to encourage them not to scrap things that clearly are marked fire connection. But the reality is that they do. Our firefighters do carry spare caps with them, so they're able to use those so that they can continue to fight the fire that's there. And then we will continue to work with our fire prevention staff to assist business owners, but it has become very costly for them, and so we have not been requiring them to immediately replace the caps, but we do carry those with us. So I just want to assure the members of the council and the community that our firefighters will be equipped to fight the fires, and then we'll long-term work on solutions.
Thank you. And also like to remind everyone that on Thursday, November 23rd, that there will be a turkey trot, and once again the mayor's office is issuing a challenge to all the departments to join the mayor and my chief of staff in a fun event to build up an appetite for your Turkey Thanksgiving Day. This meeting is adjourned until Wednesday, November the 15th, 2017.